Arise, mortals. Surrender to your queen. I am the Dark Lord, here to take over Nerdflix and Chill, to discuss the chilling adventures of Sabrina. Yes, I know it's a Christmas special. Sue me. Just because I am a master of the Church of Night doesn't mean I can't listen to Jingle Bells. It's really catchy.
Obviously, I'm so excited that the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is back for a 1-hour holiday special called Midwinter's Tale. I am obsessed with this show, y'all. Sabrina was exactly the kind of horror comic come to life that I could really get behind. I'm Sabrina the Teenage Whit, and on this most unholy holiday, we're gonna dive deep into the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Chapter 11, A Midwinter's Tale.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this holiday special without any spoilers to start. A Midwinter's Tale picks right up where season 1 of Sabrina left off. Aunt Zelda still has Faustus' secret baby, Harvey still can't look Sabrina in the eye, and all of this Book of the Beast giving herself fully to the Dark Lord stuff is leaving Brina with some questions. It doesn't matter how old you are. All girls need to talk to their moms for advice on boys whose brothers they bring back from the dead wrong. And they definitely need a mom when they sell their soul to Satan for magic powers. Last season, when Sabrina tried to bring back Tommy Kinkle from Limbo, she ran into her mother, who apparently had some unfinished business in the mortal world to attend to. She decides to try to summon her mother's spirit on the longest night of the year, the Solstice. But as usual, things don't go quite according to plan, and the Spellmen spend their Yuletide fighting off evil spirits. Girlfriend, when are you gonna understand that you're 16 and a fresh baby witch? You haven't even been in school for 6 months. Maybe figure out how to harness your powers before you keep contacting people who are already dead. I know we're clashing comics here, but everybody has dead people. That's not an excuse. During all of this chaos, Aunt Zelda is still fiercely protecting Faustus' daughter from being discovered by the outside witching world. It's hard enough raising a baby, but keeping it a secret? If Aunt Zelda was one of the girls that I went to high school with, she would have made that baby an Instagram so fast. Over in B-Plot Town, Roz and Susie are dealing with a supernatural Santa Claus that is definitely not what he seems to be. Will Sabrina be able to save her friends and her family from holiday demons? You gotta watch the full episode to find out, but trust me, it's a good one. A Midwinter's Tale does a great job bridging the gap between season 1 and what's to come in season 2. While it didn't answer all of our questions from season 1, it definitely set up a world to come where we might get to see more of the storyline from the CAOS comics. I've seen some haters already posting opinions that the special didn't tie up most of the loose ends from season 1, and that it even kept fostering some of the blatant plot holes we saw in that first season. But don't let those reviews discourage you. Sure, Midwinter's Tale doesn't solve everything, but it does present us with some new questions to think about for season 2. Like, will season 2 finally explore the idea that every Spellman has a secret evil twin somewhere out there in the world? The trailer for the holiday special hinted at it a little, but that scene was mysteriously missing from the actual episode. Don't worry though, the creators must have had a good reason to leave it out this time, but I'm almost positive we'll get an answer to this one in the next season. Spoiler breakdown! On to the spoilers! If you haven't watched Sabrina's Dark Holiday Special, feel free to walk away now and come back after you've celebrated the solstice. Okay, are all of the muggles gone?
If you've already seen the special, the Dark Lord is pleased with you and will reveal his special plans.
Whitney, we've been over this. Stop trying to convince our followers to sell their souls to Satan.
But I wanna!
Seriously, don't make me spray you with the holy water again.
Fine! The episode opens up with a sweet little recap of Aunt Hilda bringing little Susie and little Sabrina to the Greendale Mall to visit Santa. When Susie asks for something pretty normal and reasonable, like a truck, a very depressed-looking baby Brina asks Santa to see her dead mother one last time.
What do you wish for?
I wish I could see my mommy. And smile.
God, now that I think about it, being a mall Santa is kind of like how every bartender is an honorary psychiatrist, only mall Santas specialize in childhood trauma and smelling like that sweet combination of last night's cigarettes and synthetic beard material. While we don't see this mall Santa immediately write Sabrina a little prescription for Lexapro, I'm pretty sure it happened. Susie's dad, Mr. Putnam, and Aunt Hilda are talking about what sounds like a child kidnapping situation that happened fairly recently. But obviously, in Greendale, they don't have regular pedophiles and serial killers, they have warlocks and demons! We'll get back to that later. In present day, it's coming up on the winter solstice, aka the longest night of the year. Aunt Zelda scolds Sabrina for calling their Yule tree a Christmas tree, and I'm kinda like, dude, Sabrina, you've been living with your aunts for 16 years. How do you not know that they hella do not celebrate the birth of Christ in your household? If anyone wants to take the Christ out of Christmas, it is definitely Aunt Zelda. Step aside, Starbucks cups. The war on Christmas has a new name and it's Spellman. We find out immediately that Aunt Zelda has named the high priest's daughter Letitia, which derives from the Latin word for joy and delight. I think that this hints to the fact that baby Letty is going to have a much happier life away from Father Blackwood. Living with someone who's not your real mom is way less depressing than infanticide. As the Spellmans are getting their home ready for the holidays, Aunt Zelda reminds Sabrina and the fam that the Yule log is not just a fun solstice decoration. The Yule log is used to ward off evil spirits that may try to enter the Spellmans' home during the longest night of the year, when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest.
May the log burn, may the wheel turn, may the evil spurn, may the sun return.
It is almost time for Yule. Let us worship the Dark Lord in the heathen temple, offering to him our sacrifices of blood and undying affections for the horned god!
Chris, get the holy water gun.
Whitney, I'm so sorry, but this is for your own good.
Fine!
Sabrina's understandably tripping balls about the fact that her mortal friends are all very aware that she's a witch, and although Roz and Susie are so far pretty accepting, Harvey still isn't quite ready to forgive her for using magic around him. Ever. Wishing she could talk to her mother for advice about how to balance on the thin line between mortality and magic, Sabrina decides to hold a seance. As usual, everyone in her life tells her that this is a horrible idea, but Sabrina's like me when producer Brett tells me to do literally anything, and she somehow finds a way to bypass her loved one's advice. She asks Mrs. Wardell to loan her another book of the dead, and sets off to find the Weird Sisters to come meet her mom for the first time. Sabrina! Don't you think it's weird that Miss Wardell never gives you boundaries or tries to hold you back in any way? Instead of counting it as a lucky break that there just so happens to be a witch who always says yes to your inexperienced ideas, why don't you think about the fact that maybe she doesn't have your best interest in mind? Also, what is up with Madam Satan always wanting to be on the Dark Lord's Look, we get it. You're thirsty. But Homeboy hasn't even contacted you since the first time you failed to bring Sabrina to her dark baptism, and now that you've done exactly what he wanted you to, he still doesn't want your ratchet ass. Madam Satan just needs like a really good girlfriend to tell her he's just not that into her. Maybe you could focus your evil intentions elsewhere, like drinking the blood of newborns or placing a curse on all of the Rick and Morty fans who won't shut up about Szechuan sauce. Anyways, Sabrina tries to rope Roz and Susie into her seance, and both of them are like, I think I'm feeding my fish that night, sorry. What the hell, guys? Are you even her real friends if you won't perform an occult ritual to meet her dead parent? Hey, Chris, do you want to do a seance later to meet my grandma Moy?
Oh, hells yes! You want me to bring snacks or something?
We've gone over this, girls. No summoning spirits in the studio.
Fine! You're being a real Susie!
I have a full-time job.
Yeah, and so does Susie. Apparently, she's always wanted to be one of Santa's mall elves. Dream big, little kitten. Harvey comes by to talk to Sabrina one last time before Christmas break. She gives him a box of magic-colored pencils that never wear down, and Homeboy is very much not cool with it. Look, everyone I've talked to who's watched the show is totally on Harvey's side. She ruined his life, she made him kill his own brother, his dad fell off the wagon as a result, and she almost ripped a giant hole between the living and the dead in Greendale. Long story short, she screwed up. But I can't hold a grudge. Sabrina did what she did to protect him, to stop him from hurting. She didn't get him those colored pencils to be a bitch. I love that she's trying her best to love him from a safe distance, and that she still cares for him enough to do something thoughtful, like having her Aunt Hilda fetch him enchanted art supplies from England. But of course, like Roz and Susie, Harvey wants absolutely nothing to do with Sabrina's magic, and it's pretty obvious that he thinks Sabrina's Christmas present is a little tone deaf. I get it, but I want a cute, spooky girl to bring me magic coloring tools. Back at the Academy of the Unseen Arts, it takes little convincing for Sabrina to get the Weird Sisters on board with her seance. They also casually mention that super hottie Nick Scratch is away for the holidays visiting the Unholy Land. It's been said by multiple people already, but I strongly believe that Nick is the devil. He's super hot and clearly obsessed with Sabrina, and his name is literally two of Satan's most prominent nicknames combined, Old Nick and Mr. Scratch. The fact that he's not in the Christmas special further convinces me that he's not just a regular warlock, because it seems a little too convenient that he disappears while all of this crazy Yuletide nonsense is going on.
Well, if you're looking for Nicholas, he just left.
He's off to the unholy lands for the holidays.
I wasn't.
With Harvey still heartbroken by Sabrina, I'm really hoping to see Nick and Sabrina hook up in season 2. This little snippet of them grooving together from the season 2 teaser trailer gives me hope that Brina will be doing just a little bit more than just dancing with the devil. But is Nick a harmless character, or is he simply biding his time to reveal his more sinister side? That's what I'm hoping season 2 will answer. With the Weird Sisters on board, it's time to travel back to B-Plot Town, where Roz is visiting Susie at her new mall job. As always, I have no idea what era these people are dressing for, but hey, if all of Greendale wants to dress like it's in famine in old-timey England, be my guest. Santa's Playland is like an ultra creepy It's a Small World filled with tons of creepy child mannequins. If you're thinking to yourself, I wonder if those guys are gonna end up being haunted, you are absolutely right. At best, this Santa is a total pedophile, and at worst, we're looking at the full circle answer to the question asked in the flashback scene at the beginning of the episode. Where are all the missing children in Greendale? Instead of being super embarrassed about her outfit, Susie is still ecstatic to be working for Mr. Bartell.
I've always wanted to be Jingles, and this was probably the last year I'd be short enough to do it.
Hey, Jingles. We're back on the clock if you don't mind.
If you're up to date on your demonic lore, you'll be able to catch on that this creepy mall Santa is actually a total demon before Roz even gets the cunning about it. Mr. Bartell is actually the Krampus, aka the anti-Santa Claus. He punishes children for being bad instead of rewarding them for being good, and is basically just a horned half-goat, half-demon. In Austria, the Krampus is called Bartel or Bartel. Roz catches on to this immediately because of the cunning, which is basically exactly like The Shining, only you see demons instead of regular Jack Nicholson. Instead of warning her friend that she just had a just so Raven moment about her demon boss, Roz leaves Susie to help Mr. Bartell polish his collection of creepy kid statues. To Susie's horror, she realizes that the statues can blink and cry, and that's when the Krampus throws her into his big ol' sack to turn her into a wax statue. Ooh, here's a fun little Easter egg. Notice that Madame Satan's voodoo gingerbread men look exactly like the Spellmans as they're depicted in the original Archie comics. Remember when Hilda had bright green hair and Zelda was kind of a weird dresser? Huh, good times. She pours water down the gingerbread house's chimney, causing the Spellman's Yule log fire to extinguish. To be fair, that Yule log burning out was probably why Sabrina and her friends were able to call forth Diana Spellman's spirit so easily. My question is, if communicating with Sabrina's mom is this easy, why haven't Aunt Hilda and Aunt Zelda tried this before? This ties more into my theory that Aunt Zelda knows way more about Edward and Diana's deaths than she's letting on, but I'm really hoping that we see the answer to that in season 2 as well. Sabrina talks to her mom briefly, and then comes to the conclusion that her mom definitely has some unfinished business left here on Earth. And in order to bust her out of limbo, Sabrina has to figure out how to help her solve it. Their little FaceTime chat is interrupted, however, when other malicious spirits start entering the house. Zelda catches her in her little seance, and as usual, Sabrina is in trouble.
Why in Satan's name didn't you tell us? We could have helped you and Diana.
You would have done that?
Of course.
Apparently, Sabrina hasn't learned her lesson yet about using magic around Harvey because she brews up her Aunt Hilda's secret recipe for an eggnog that can cure alcoholism. To play literally the devil's advocate, I think that Sabrina wanting to cure her ex-boyfriend's dad's drinking problem is sweet. Can you imagine if all you had to do to sober up your dad was feed him a glass of eggnog? No 12-step meetings, no Al-Anon for Harvey, just a cup full of decades of therapy. Mental health. Back in B-Plot Town, Susie's dad can't find her, and that's because she's waking up on the dirty floor of a centuries-old child abuser. If the wax statues weren't enough to scar you for life, the giant cauldron of wax with a Texas Chainsaw Massacre hook rope dangling above it sure will. Down in the morgue, Ambrose is spending the solstice alone embalming corpses. Good tidings of gladness and great joy, that sounds awesome! The dead lady on his table suddenly tries to attack him, and that's when he realizes that maybe holiday spirit isn't the only kind of spirit in the house. The spirits start revealing themselves to Aunt Hilda while she's baking, and while the whole gaslighting her about where she left the rolling pin thing was cute, the part where they almost stabbed her with like 13 knives was not cool. Oh, did I mention that the entire time the creepiest soundtrack of dead children laughing is playing in the background?
Who's that?
Upstairs, Aunt Zelda is playing another round of Where's the Baby with Letitia when all of a sudden her sewing machine comes to life and starts stitching the ominous message, "We have your baby." She realizes that while her back was turned checking out her spindle, Letitia had vanished from her crib. Obviously, all three of them are officially freaking out. Turns out a malevolent bunch of spirits called the Yule Lads hid Letitia in the warming oven while it was preheating, because what's Christmas without a baked baby? Real quick, let's dive into the lore of Yule Lads. According to Icelandic legend, the Yule Lads are a group of mischievous, malevolent spirits who, like the Krampus, exist solely to punish bad children. In Iceland, they also have a Yule cat that goes around eating children who don't receive new clothes for Christmas. Weird flex, but okay. The cat doesn't make it into this episode, but Gryla, the Yule Lad's mother, does. In this episode, Gryla is kind of a mashup between a couple different stories. In Iceland, she's the mother giantess of the Yule Lads who eats naughty children during the holiday season. Fun! Her appetite only extends to bad children, however, so she'll only munch on you if you're like a little bit bad. She lives in the mountains with her third husband, who is apparently a total doormat and kind of just hangs out while she devours the flesh of the young. In this episode, though, Gryla is a witch who, during a famine in Salem 1,000 years ago, made a pact with another witch that they would both kill and eat their children to survive. After boiling and eating Gryla's only son, the other witch decided that she didn't feel like souffléing her kids, and Gryla obviously freaked the heck out.
Seriously, what is it with witches and cannibalism?
While I was doing research for this, I came across a ton of similar stories from back in the day when they'd throw you in the river to see if you'd sink or float. But none of the stories that I saw had the exact specific details that were in this episode. During the 1612 Lancaster witch trials, a girl named Grace Sourbuts testified against her aunt and grandmother after witnessing them shove a nail into the belly button of a newborn before throwing him into a pot of oil, boiling him, and eating him for supper. In the later 1600s, European witches were said to sacrifice their children to the devil shortly after birth by shoving a needle deep into their sweet little baby brains before munching them down. Gross, I know, but witches gotta eat. Unlike the Icelandic Gryla and the witches who lived through the English famine in the 1600s, this Gryla is filled with so much remorse for eating her child that she dedicates the rest of her life to collecting and leading orphan child spirits, aka the Yule Lads. While she'd never eat another baby again, she will throw down with anyone who hurts children, and she will definitely kidnap your baby if you have one. Which poses this problem. Gryla is the only one who can call the Yule Lads out of the Spellman's house, but they're kinda harboring an infant they stole from the high priest, so they decide to have Sabrina hold Letitia down in the morgue while Hilda and Zelda get Gryla good and drunk. Side quest? Why do they tantalize us with this fabulous gay hell bar and not even let us explore? I don't care that Ambrose's hot evil boyfriend is there. Show me the outfits. I want to see wall-to-wall gay warlock wardrobes, and I want to see it now. After Gryla finishes slugging back that gin, Letitia's pacifier falls out of her mouth, and Gryla hears her crying. She demands that they fork the baby over to her because she's a real mother. Yeah, okay, because I definitely want to chow down on Pugsley all the time. For some reason, this summons Diana, who basically apparates into the Spellman's living room wearing a Santa Lucia crown. Whoo, boy, they're really shoving in every piece of holiday lore in there, aren't they? But unlike the Krampus, Yule Lads, and Gryla, St. Lucy is a martyr celebrated by the Lutheran Church in Sweden at Christmas time. Honestly, Santa Lucia is my kind of babe. She wears a wreath of candles on her head so that she can use her hands to carry as many snacks as possible without having to waste one of her mitts on carrying a torch. How genius is that? God, I'm gonna have to remember that trick next time I try to grab something out of the fridge in the middle of the night. Empowered by St. Lucy and her evil counterpart, Diana is able to judge a baby mama contest just like King Solomon. In the Bible, King Solomon decided to cut a baby in half that two mothers were fighting over, each claiming as their own. Solomon ended up giving the baby to the mother who, didn't want to see a sword run through her child. Diana pulls the same trick, and Zelda refuses to rip the baby apart. Diana ends up giving Gryla the baby, but surprise! It's just a changeling! But damn, Sabrina and her mom are swindlers. Plot hole number 1,000,000! Why is Diana just being seanced in now? Her spirit just shows up without being called as soon as baby Letitia is in danger, but she couldn't step in when, her daughter was trying to resurrect someone from the dead? If they don't continue to talk to Sabrina's mom using an undead phone-a-friend in season 2, I'm gonna lose it! Let's jump back on the bust to B-plot town, where Roz busts into the Spellman house to tell Sabrina that Susie is missing. I'm sorry, but now it's convenient for you to let your friend use her magic tricks? Okay. Using the mystical powers of a phone book, Aunt Zelda finds Mr. Bartell's address and decides to call Gryla back to help them take down the Krampus.
You'll make a most splendid addition to my display, Susie.
Okay, pause. Why does Mr. Bartell suddenly have a Transylvanian accent? The Krampus is from Austria! Get your demon lore right! Ugh, this is so cheesy. How does it feel to know that you're gonna be turned into Paris Hilton from House of Wax by the world's most generic villain accent? Just as the wax is finished boiling, Gryla busts in with the Yule Lads to save the day. She lets Susie go, and Aunt Hilda takes her home with a batch of shortbread cookies that'll make Susie's father forget that she was kidnapped by a demon. It turns out that Gryla turned Bartell into a giant candle for the Festival of Lights, which is a great way to repurpose a dead demon. Are you sure you aren't related to Martha Stewart, Grouse? When the Spellmans return home, Aunt Zelda decides that it's too dangerous to keep a stolen baby in the house and decides to give Letitia up to that witch who lives in the woods from season 1. What? You stole a baby from Faustus and now you're just giving her away? I get that some prankster spirits broke into your house, but you can't just pass off a baby like a hand-me-down PS4. I don't know, guys. This seems like a real cop-out from the writers to me. I was really looking forward to seeing how the hidden baby would tie into season 2. I was kind of hoping that Letitia would have her own evil twin story arc like Sabrina, but unless we spend a lot of time with Desmelda next season, I'm not sure how they're going to incorporate her in a major way. Diana appears to Sabrina one last time and reveals that she's been stuck in limbo for the dumbest reason ever. Apparently, her unfinished business was just that she wanted to make sure that her daughter had a happy life. Why didn't anyone think to seance her spirit before? Don't witches do this all the time? Sabrina's mom pieces out after giving her the advice to not involve her mortal friends on her dark path to become a witch. Why? I would totally be friends with Sabrina and help her fight demons. I'd be the Willow to her Buffy. We could go watch Skeleton Witch concerts together and dye our hair white. Whatever, Sabrina, when you're done messing around with Harvey and Roz and Susie, I'll be your real friend. I'm not gonna judge you if you want to help me resurrect my childhood dog. Damn, you'd be doing me a sweet. Harvey comes over one last time to talk on Christmas Eve to tell Sabrina to stop bringing her magic around him once and for all. Dude, she cured your dad's debilitating alcoholism and bought you colored pencils that will never go dull. You don't have to date her anymore, but at least be grateful to her for keeping your dad out of the ER with alcohol poisoning this Christmas. Here's how I know Sabrina isn't a normal teenage girl. If my boyfriend was that brutal to me about my superpowers, I'd be sobbing and hitting a pint of Ben & Jerry's like there were diamonds at the bottom. Instead of throwing herself face down on her comforter and crying till New Year's, Sabrina pulls it together and joins her family for the solstice. Aunt Hilda makes an offhanded comment about how all they have to do now is get through the witch epiphany without any other terrors rising from the bowels of hell. Yay! More holiday lore! The Epiphany witch Befana is an Italian Christmas witch who appears on Epiphany Eve, January 5th. She's basically like a Lady Santa witch, only she makes the children leave her wine instead of milk and cookies. Genius. According to Christian legend, the three wise men stopped to ask Befana for directions on their way to visit the baby Jesus. She didn't know where he was, but she did provide them with a place to sleep at night. Everyone in town always said she was the most generous host, and the wise men enjoyed staying with her so much that they invited her on their Jesus search. At first she declined, but later set out after them with tons of toys for the baby. Unfortunately, she never found Jesus, so legend has it that she began roaming the night on Epiphany Eve, leaving candy and presents for all the good children while she continues to search. A slightly darker version of that story that they'll probably use in season 2 is that Befana went insane after her mortal child died and convinced herself that Jesus was actually her baby. In her maddened state, she searched until she found him, but upon giving him gifts, Jesus took pity on her and blessed her with becoming the mother of every child in Italy. I'm sure they'll find a way to make that much, much creepier, but so far, I'm down to hear the story of a crazy lady who loves drinking wine and putting toys in kids' shoes. Seeing that episode 1 of season 2 is called The Epiphany, I'm pretty sure that they'll be incorporating a spooky version of this lore. It helps my theory that the last shot of the episode is of 3 Darth Maul-looking wise men emerging out of the hellmouth in the collapsed mine that killed Tommy Kinkle. Obviously, the opposite of the 3 wise men looking for Christ is the 3 demons searching for the Antichrist. Now there's a lot to speculate on here. Are they about to introduce an Antichrist figure into the series? Do the demon wise men know about baby Letitia being stolen? And how does that moment from the trailer with Sabrina's father holding the second baby that Sabrina saw in a vision last season tie in? I don't know, but what I do know is that's a lot of babies. Some of them might get eaten, some of them might be demons, some of them might be evil twins. Who's to say?
And Satan bless us. Everyone.
All I know is I'm really pumped for season 2, plot holes and all. But are you guys? Did this holiday special totally ruin Christmas for you? Or did you find yourself kind of getting into all the holiday lore? I think you guys know how I feel. Duh. But let me know how Midwinter's Tale stacks up for you. Like and subscribe to NerdWire, check us out on Plex and Roku, and for more Sabrina, click to the left of my face for more videos. Satan bless us, everyone.